What's up, everybody? Welcome to Tsunami Speaks with your host, Tsunami Jones. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend, retweet when I tweet this out each day. That's how I'll grow this channel going forward. And my journey with my fellow panelists on Dope Soul Sports Talk. I am Jarrell. To win this contest to 100 subscribers. So appreciate your guys' help. Shout out to him. Shout out to Queen, of course, from Dope Soul Sports Talk. Without her, this channel wouldn't have been formed, and she gave me my start. So I really appreciate her. That said, moving on to week 5, guys. I can't believe we're already here. Rivalry week, division week, first game of the division, anyway. Huge, huge, huge game. The big stat that I have for you guys going into this is that we're winless in the division for the last 2 years. That crap has to end now, to quote Rob Saleh here. That's just terrible. We've gone through a lot the last few years. I don't need to go through all of those things. You guys know what's going on, but we need this win in the worst way. Um, I mean, and it's also just a hell of an opportunity. We win this game, Steelers beat the Bills, and the Jets are leading the division. That's a big deal. It's a big opportunity, and man, would that be awesome just for us Jets fans. We deserve it. But this will not be an easy game. So, we'll see how it ends up going, but I'm really pumped for this game. All right, moving on to the injury report. Starting with our New York Jets. Only 2 players are confirmed out, Quincy Williams and Max Mitchell. We already knew about these injuries. Max Mitchell's gonna be out for a while, Quincy Williams is gonna be out for a while, but neither player is on IR, so that's encouraging. So maybe in the next couple of weeks, we might get one or both of these players back. Questionable section here, we only have 1 player. Can you guys believe it? It's crazy. Knock on wood, this continues for the rest of the season. We could use some good injury luck. Marcel Harris is the only one who's questionable. He played pretty well against the Steelers last week, so I think this matters a bit more than some Jets fans may realize, considering we're already down Quincy. So if Marcel Harris doesn't play, I'm going to bring someone else in there to help Quan and CJ Mosley. So is this the week that Jamie Sherwood gets called up? Probably. He might still get called up even with Marcel Harris just listed, even if Marcel Harris does play, I wouldn't be surprised. We're gonna need the depth, I think, on Sunday. So that's just something that I wanted to bring up for you guys because there's something to this. Sherwood still is new to linebacker. He doesn't have that experience because he's a converted safety. This is only his second year in the league. He had some good moments last year. He had some bad ones last year, and he was definitely plagued with injuries last year as well. So we'll see. Moving on to the Dolphins. Their injury report is the complete opposite of ours. Who would have thought? So they have 3 players that are confirmed out. Tua, their backup, Ethan Carter, Byron Jones is out, considering he's still on their IR. None of those are really a big deal except for Tua. For obvious reasons. We all know about the concussion that he had last week and the concussion he had the week before, but that doesn't that's not relevant now. I'm gonna go through their questionable section of their injury report. I gotta tell you, is nasty, and I think there's definitely some gamesmanship being played here by Mike McDaniel. Going through this here, Salvin Ahmed, their 4th-string running back, Teron Armstead, their starting left tackle, Kevion Crossan, Xavier Howard, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Robert Jones. All of those guys are listed as questionable. And the only player on that list who didn't play at all during practice was Teron Armstead. If you guys have been following any of their injury reports, you probably don't because, you know, we're not Dolphins fans over here, but I do just because, for gambling reasons and all that good stuff. Teron Armstead has been on the injury report for weeks with this toe injury, and he's been playing on it. So it kind of reminds me kind of how we were using George Fant. He was always limited in practice. Armstead is just another step worse in the aspect of he's not playing at all, but he's still performing when he's out there. So I'm like almost guaranteeing he's gonna play. The other players, I feel like they're gonna play either way. Honestly, I mean, there's just no way Tyreek Hill is out tomorrow. I would be shocked, but we'll see. Jalen Waddle, he is new to the injury list with this groin injury. Groins can linger. I don't know. I'm gonna let that just marinate and just assume those guys are gonna play. And I'm sure Rob Saleh is gonna do the same thing. Why game plan for them to be using their backups when this is a division game and it has some good urgency to it. And I can see Mike McDaniel doing this anyway, just because also the aspect of him and Rob Saleh are boys. They came up in the NFL together, apparently with the Texans under Gary Kubiak, and then from there they went to the Niners. And anyone that kind of knows the story knows the story. But that said, they're very close. They know each other's tendencies, so this will be very interesting going into this week. And enough time dwelling on the injury report. The only other thing I will add before I move on, though, is the Xavier Howard injury. I think is legit. He was hurt last week. He had the groin injury then, and if you guys watched a little bit of that game, he came out during the game because of the severity of the injury. Excuse me. That's their starting corner. And Xavier Howard is really good. He's one of the best corners in the NFL, especially when healthy. So, in that aspect, if he does not play, there is definitely going to be an advantage for the Jets there because he's of huge importance and Byron Jones is already out. So they'll be down to their third and fourth corners. That doesn't mean that that's an automatic W because I think they have a rookie on there. I think his name is Caden something. He's really good. He's having a great rookie year. Not as good as Sauce Gardner, but for an undrafted corner, this is pretty impressive. So we'll see what ends up happening there. So, going to our keys to the W. My first key is we need to create turnovers. I know I normally start off with limit turnovers. We're moving this up a little notch here because the Jets are starting to turn the tide a little bit on the defensive end, and creating turnovers is huge. This is going to give us the short field that we need. Zach is going to need short fields. We're going to need points in this game because I think both teams are going to score. And so short field just makes it a lot easier. The Bengals created the Bengals against the Bengals last week. Wow, I messed that all up. Sorry. So when the Bengals played the Dolphins last week, they created 2 turnovers. And with our cornerback group and our safeties, dare I say it, they created 4 turnovers total between the two. 3 for our safeties and 1 for Michael Carter, the second. So I'm feeling pretty decent about just our ability to be ball hawks, and we're going to need that to happen. And it looks like you can get those guys to turn the ball over, whether it's Tua. Obviously, Tua's not playing, but you get the point. Him and Teddy, they'll throw some interceptions. So we just need to be ready for those, dead duck passes and things of that nature. Um, and so I think that's just something that we're going to really have to do for those reasons. And if we create turnovers, obviously we win the turnover game. We're going to be in a really good position to win here. My goal for the team is to create 2 turnovers. Next key is winning the time of possession game. Um, just for perspective, last year when we played the Dolphins, we held the ball for 25 minutes and 26 minutes. Explains why we lost both games, right? I mean, that's not good enough. And the Dolphins are a good team. Injuries, no injuries, doesn't matter. If we can hold the ball at least 30 minutes, like we did against the Steelers last week, we're going to be in a pretty good position. Again, that's going to be us running the ball and keeping drives going. Big key there. So, whatever we need to do, just convert on third down, which is my next key. Win on third down. This is probably the biggest key, even more than the turnovers aspect for me. Last week against the Steelers, we were 6 of 15, which is 40%. And then in both games against the Dolphins, when we lost, we were 3 and 11 and 7 of 14. A 7-14 is going to be what my goal is for the Jets to do because that game was extremely close. So 50% means those drives go long, means we win the time of possession game, and we're going to need those against a team like this. My next key is we need to have a great special teams performance. You think about it, we had that against the Browns with that fake punt, with just our punts in general. Remember, Braden Mann balled out that game. And then, of course, the onside kick. I'm not saying we're going to need the exact formula replicated here, but I think we're due. Braxton hasn't really broken one yet on special teams. I think this would be a good week for it to happen. He really plays well against the Dolphins each week. I know there's some Dolphins fans that get a little nervous there because of him. Last year in one of the games against the Dolphins, he had a 31-yard return. We're going to need something like that to happen. And then if you think about special teams last week when we played the Steelers, we had an opportunity to get a fumble or recover that fumble when their dude, dropped the ball and all the Jets just kind of froze. And there were a crap ton around him. So that was kind of wild. Justin Hardy came out on social media on Twitter saying, "This can't happen again. We're better than that." I'm paraphrasing, but I I saw that he took accountability and took it personally. So I'm kind of pumped up seeing that he saw that and admitted that to fans. I mean, he doesn't have to do that kind of thing. So I'm pumped on that. So that was a blown opportunity. And Braden Mann, like I mentioned earlier, with his performance against the Browns, and then even last week he performed pretty well as far as his punting's going. It's like he's back to normal. He's booming them. He's setting people, within the 20, within the 10, I believe, on one last week. We need that. Keep it up, Braden Mann. And then the obvious, when with our kicker, Big Z. He has been great the last few weeks. Basically, you can almost throw out his performance against the Ravens. This is the real Greg Zuerlein. We might need a 50-yarder in this game. I feel confident that we can get that from him. All right. Now, so our defense needs to get to the quarterback. I know I say this a lot, but we do. The Dolphins have only given up 7 sacks this year, which is tied with like 8 teams for 8th best overall in giving up sacks. Still pretty early, so a lot of teams have that, so it makes sense. But if you compare that to us, we're the 22nd worst in giving up sacks. And so, and we've seen the way our offensive line has performed. We've been hit or miss, mostly miss. So that said, we're going to need a big game. We're going to need a game by Quinnen, who has been balling out this year, especially for a defensive tackle. He's actually leading our team in sacks, believe it or not, with 2.5 sacks. Lawson has been getting better every week, and he's got 1.5 sacks. So I'm feeling pretty good about our chances there. I would say that Teddy Bridgewater is just a little bit more stationary than Tua, so that gives us a bit of an advantage. So if Teddy can't really use his athleticism, he'll be closer to a sitting duck than Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is a little bit better than Teddy, just athletically, and maybe just is a better quarterback overall. I know that can be something that could be argued, but you get the point. I like our chances versus Teddy, even though I still support dude. He's just on the wrong team for me to like. All right, and last key is that our offensive line needs to hold up for Zach. Last week we only gave up 1 sack. However, Zach was pressured 14 times. And honestly, he made some plays utilizing his legs. There was a few plays where he just threw the ball out of bounds because he was pressured so hard. So you guys got to keep in mind that he made that look a lot better than it actually was. Even though I still give major credit to my boy AVT for playing left tackle, at the last minute. That's pretty freaking awesome that a right guard or left guard was able to just move into that in a moment's notice, even though they said he did some practicing of his own time to to do left tackle. That's pretty impressive by homie. So, all that being said, it's going to be a big deal for them to protect him. If you know anything about Miami, and if you don't, I'll tell you now. Miami loves to blitz. That is their thing. But it's not just blitzing; it's exotic blitz. They like to utilize their safeties to blitz a lot. My boy Javon Holland, for example, they like to use him for those exotic blitzes. So worried about that. The good rumor that has been going around here is that Dwayne Brown is back and is going to play this week. They have not announced that yet, but Dwayne announced himself that he feels back to normal and he's 100%. So he kind of let the cat out of the bag there. So if he's feeling like that, I'm pretty sure they're going to play him, but we haven't had it completely confirmed. But since it sounds like that's what's going to happen, they have a lot of options of what they're going to do at right tackle here because Dwayne Brown is going to only do left tackle. Does that mean they put AVT and have him move again to right tackle? I don't know if I would do that considering he never played right tackle in college. And you can't just assume left tackle is the same as right tackle. You have to flip up your whole technique and all that stuff. Again, this is after 1 week's practice. So, something to consider. Mike Remmers has been a career right tackle, so I have a feeling they're probably going to roll with him and put AVT back at right guard. That's my biggest guess. I could be wrong. That Cedric guy that they got from the Texans practice squad, he is also on our team. I'm not sure if they're going to activate him and maybe utilize him. He hasn't talked much, so not don't really know too much about him. But I'm feeling pretty good about us at least getting Dwayne Brown back because we know that dude is a great player. The only concern that we really have with him is just his age, which kind of goes hand in hand with injury. So something to watch for sure. The whole thing is I would like for us to replicate the one sack part of the last week and limit those pressures. Because if we protect Zach in a game like this against a team that runs so much man coverage, we're gonna score on them. But big key is to protect that guy. Okay, so moving on to players to watch. Starting for the Jets here. Zach Wilson. Of course, I'm going to have him on this list because he's the franchise. He had a great fourth quarter last week, an impeccable fourth quarter last week that I can't emphasize enough. I was so proud of him. And that was his first fourth quarter comeback. And I think he's 10 of 12. I think I said 140 some yards in the last video. I was wrong. It's 128. So I apologize about that. But anyway, we need a replication of that fourth quarter for the entire game. I know that is asking a lot, but that's what my goal for him is. He was a little bit rusty and inaccurate in some spots in the first half of last week, which was to be expected considering he hadn't played football in a while. And the Steelers defense isn't terrible. They're actually pretty good, and Minka Fitzpatrick is that good, like I said in my last video as well. So all that being said, now he's got another week of practice, some experiences to kind of draw, to use the film from, especially with last week's stuff. And we are going to need that in this game. We're going to need his A game in this game because Miami's defense can be had, again, as long as we protect him. So the Dolphins actually, this might surprise some people, one of my favorite stats. The Dolphins have been giving up 403 yards per game, and they're 27th in the NFL defensively. And then they're 31st in the NFL against the pass. People are passing all over them. And that's even considering how the Bengals performed last week. And I feel like, Thursday night games, you guys know this. Thursday night games, teams are a little more conservative in their game plans because they're just trying to get their players healthy because of the quick turnaround. I think if the Bengals had gotten, to play them on Sunday instead of Thursday, they would have lit them up more. But just something that I'm thinking about there. Zach's got the weapons to beat this blitz, to beat their man coverage scheme that they play and utilize. And they've been had already. So, I mean, the opportunities are there, players are there. Zach's got a quick release. We're going to need to see him use that and gain big chunk yards and just explosive plays. Make them with his legs, make them with throw the ball to Garrett Wilson, man. Throw it to him. We all know what he can do after the catch. So my goal and what I'm kind of expecting, to be honest with you, is for him to get 249 yards passing, 2 touchdowns passing, and I expect a pick because there's always something that happens there. I'm not saying Zach throws picks all the time because that's actually not true. If you look at the second half of last year, he only had one pick in the last 5 games of the season, but with the Dolphins having, the players that they do have and their secondary still, even though they're beat up, they still scare me just a tad. I could see them getting a pick, even if it's just one of those kinda heads up plays. And I also kind of foresee that Zach might get a rushing touchdown. We utilized him quite a bit in the second half of last year, running the ball more and more. And I'm not just talking about the Jaguars game. That's easy, low hanging fruit. He was effective utilizing his legs last year, and we utilized them last week. So I would not be surprised at all seeing him run the ball more. My next player, I already kind of mentioned him, Garrett freaking Wilson. I think we're going to get some Wilson to Wilson action this week. They got a week to practice with each other, learn each other's tendencies on routes. Zach was quoted saying, Garrett Wilson is so sneaky and so good at faking people out. He's faked me out when I've tried to throw to him. Again, I'm paraphrasing. So it kind of makes sense considering they didn't really hook up too much last week. I think he only got a few catches. I think it's like 2 or 3 catches on like 8 targets. So there's something there. I think this week we might get the opportunity to see him really kill it. Um, Again, I mentioned this. Miami plays a ton of man coverage, so they're going to leave their corners on islands. They may change it up because of how banged up they are in the secondary, but we'll see there. I'm going to assume they're going to run their same scheme and just try and beat Zach with the blitz. If that's the case, that means Garrett Wilson is going to be open. He's open anyway. That dude is a separation machine. So Zach has to get him the ball and let him work. Let him make those big plays. I'm feeling 80 yards plus. Easily see him streaking down the field for like a 15, 20-yard touchdown, maybe more. I'm being a little conservative there. But I'm feeling a big G-dub game here. Tyler Conklin is another player. He had a solid game last week, minus the pass that he fumbled that Zach threw a little high, and it resulted in a pick. I think Zach's going to go to him often when he's blitzed. That's his safety blanket anyway. He's a tight end, and Conklin does a really good job of getting open. As long as he holds on to the ball, I could see him having a big game, like 60, 70 yards receiving and maybe a touchdown in the red zone. We haven't really thrown to him in the red zone much, other than week 1. So I'm thinking that would be a good opportunity. I could just see him getting the ball a lot. And he's honestly law of averages. Conklin was not a dude that fumbled a lot of passes or dropped a lot of passes last year, with the Vikings. So law of averages tells us that's gonna stop. And if so, I think this is a good week for it to happen. I think I think we'll get a clean game from him. Brees Hall. Gotta mention my guy. I expect another good game from him every week. If you guys have been following, he's getting more and more carries, and he's still been receiving, been targeted a ton, by each quarterback, whether it's Joe Flacco or Zach. I didn't expect him to get thrown the ball that much last week, so it looks like that's continuing. He's actually a good pass blocker too. I know that's unrelated, but I just want to give him credit. PFF has him graded very high for his pass blocking. So that might be another key as to why he's seeing so many more snaps, even more than Michael Carter. That said, Brees had a good week last week, considering he hadn't really no holes to run through. That's not me, shading our offensive line. It's just their patchwork right now, just because of all the attrition they've been getting injury wise. So with getting Dwayne Brown back and possibly putting AVT back at right guard, like I mentioned earlier, one thing AVT really kills at is run blocking. Let my guy open up some holes for Brees Hall to go through. He's due. So I'm gonna say Brees the Beast, coming off that Rookie of the Week award that he got the belt for the other day. I think he breaks, a couple of long runs and maybe a touchdown. I'm thinking like 70 yards on the ground and maybe 20 to 30 yards receiving. I mean, always 100 yards from scrimmage is kind of what we've been seeing the last few weeks, or close to it. I know it was 88 like last week, but you guys get the point. So I'm thinking he's gonna have a good game. Our safeties. No, that's I'm going in tandems now, but I have to here. Lamarcus Joyner, Jordan Whitehead. Last week, those men balled out. 3 interceptions. Joyner shocked the hell out of me. Can they replicate that performance that they had against the Steelers? We're going to need it. Maybe not interception wise, but they're going to have their opportunities because they are our weakest link on the team. Because people aren't going to always want to throw to Sauce and DJ Reed because those guys are otherworldly. So you got to pick your poison. If I'm their defensive coordinator, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, I'm going to throw at the safeties. That means these guys need to be ready. They're going to need to make those open field tackles on guys like Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle or make a play on the ball. If they don't catch it, you don't have to deal with the tackling. So I'm going to be watching them with a very close eye and a magnifying glass to make sure, these guys doing what they need to do. And I wouldn't secondarily, I don't have them listed here, but I do want to say our linebackers too. It's another position group that they might attack. So big key there. Lastly, as far as Jets players, I'm going to just talk about DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner because I have to. They've been so good. Wow. We heard DJ Reed was good, but seeing it with your own eyes, seeing it on your team makes all the world of difference. They've been killing it, but this is going to be the biggest challenge that they've had to encounter all season. I mean, not to diminish the Bengals wide receiving core, which is fantastic. We all know. Dolphins are just a different level, different breed, led by obviously Tyreek Hill. Him and Jalen Waddle are extremely fast. So if you get them in space and you miss that open field tackle, that's it, which is why I was just mentioning all that stuff about safeties. They will get matched up against our corners as well. So when that happens, it's gonna be it's gonna be a hell of a moment. To give credit to these guys, DJ Reed has given up 73 yards, 8 catches on 18 targets, and a pick for the year. He hasn't even given up 100 yards yet. Wow. Sauce has 4 pass breakups, 101 yards. He's been targeted 19 times and has given up 9 catches. Those are incredible numbers for our guys, and especially Sauce because he's a rookie. I'm extremely pumped to see what they do this week. I don't know what to expect, so I don't have expectations here. I just hope that we make some good plays on the ball and, like I mentioned earlier, create some turnovers. We're going to need that from these guys, both position groups. All right. And the players that we're going to need to stop and be very, head on a swivel about, so to speak. Javon Holland, my guy from Oregon. He is already a top 10 safety in the NFL, free safety. He has been great. He's already, I mean, people are talking about him as an all pro already. I'm sure he's going to go to the Pro Bowl this year, even though they're getting rid of that. But you guys get the point here. He's in that Minka Fitzpatrick class. And maybe he might surpass him in the next year or two. We'll see. The media's starting to see it, but I just want to make sure people know just how good he is. They use him in so many different ways. And that's how they lead to those exotic blitzes and things like that. The way they drop players in coverage and then, you know, they just try to fool you a lot, scheme wise. He's a ball hawk. So that is someone we're going to have to watch and not let him kill us. We have to stop him from being himself. Tyreek Hill. Basically the same stuff I just said. I would say he's the best player on the Dolphins as a whole, nagging injury or not, because he's playing. We all know what he can do. He's coming off a 160-yard game receiving last week. He was fantastic even with Teddy, which is another reason why we need to be leery of Dude this week. Um, I'm not extremely worried he's going to kill our corners. I'm just worried about what he might do to our safeties. I could see him breaking one for a long score, like something, an embarrassing touchdown. I'll just put it that way. I can see him doing one. Can we just limit him to one, and that be it? Stop the bleeding. That's what I'm hoping for. Lastly, here, Mike Gesicki. He always kills us, man. That is a dude that and it's not even that he has like a bunch of yards in these games. What happens is he just makes those inopportune catches, those drive stretching catches, right? Those touchdowns in the red zone when it looked like we were good, we covered them, everybody else is covering. And here comes Mike, just blowing, just blowing us up and getting an easy touchdown. We have to stop him. We don't do a great job against tight ends in general, and then Mike is just different. what my key is for us is hopefully we can keep pressure on their offensive line, by obviously hitting the quarterback and smacking the quarterback around. If we can do that, Mike Gesicki won't be in the game so much because he can't block. Or he's just shouldn't say he can't block. He's not a great blocker. I'll phrase it like that. So that's what I'm hoping for in that aspect. Okay. Moving on to my final prediction for the game. So, set this all up for you guys. Salah told us publicly in his interviews this week and in One Jets Drive. By the way, if you haven't seen One Jets Drive and you're a Jets fan, obviously you are if you're watching this video, you need to watch it. That propaganda, woo, it's fun. It pumps you up, especially last week's One Jets Drive episode where they showed the final drive going against the Steelers. Um, it's just like I could watch it every day. I've watched it a few times already, and it only dropped on Thursday. And just hearing how hyped these players are and how they believe in each other. I know that stuff is kind of corny to some fans. I get it, but I don't know. It makes me want to play football watching it, I swear. Anyway, no, I would be terrible though. All that being said, sorry about that. Salah has said a multitude of times about these division games having the utmost importance, of him saying he's embarrassed of that division record that we have and said that this crap ends this season. Okay, you said it. Here's your first opportunity. You are going against a team that is missing their franchise quarterback for this week. That is banged up, even though they're going to play. They are still banged up because they had, they're reporting all that stuff on the injury report. They're coming in still kind of high off how they've performed to start this year. They think they're the better team. This is the week that we have to make a difference. This is the week that we have to take a stand against everybody in our division. People are still laughing at us on the national media. I listen to a lot of sports shows, guys, and all they do is still crack jokes against us. They talked about Kenny Pickett in one of the podcasts I listened to. They said, "Damn, he couldn't even beat the Jets." Okay, I'm tired of hearing that crap. Just saying, as a Jets fan, I'm tired of getting the, "Hey, you guys won. Wow, shocker." I want it to become a thing of regularity. I want to see more of that. The only way we can do it is A, winning at home. We haven't won at home yet. This is the week to do it. Why not? No better week, okay? Is to win at home and then win against one of our rivals. Are you kidding me? So anyway, all that being said, we got Zach back. Zach's coming off one of his best performances of his career. While under the gun, comeback win. He got another week of practice. The defense finally got to see themselves ball out. Remember, they've had all the miscommunication errors and all this stuff, and we were pretty down on the defense last week coming into the Steelers game. Now the defense can see what great communication means. How awesome that they can be when they're getting to the quarterback, and that gives us opportunities to make those plays on the ball via our secondary. And I'll say this, the NFL messed up by letting a bad team have that belief that we can win. They allowed a bad team to start winning. If you watch the NFL, you know that's all it takes. I mean, if you look at the Bengals last year, people thought the Bengals were still pretty sorry, especially since Joe Burrow was coming off that really terrible injury. No one thought the Bengals were going to do what they did. Then they had a few early wins in September, and they started believing, and they started winning. Why not us? So I said all of that to say, I see us winning. I know I've said that every week, but beginning of this week, I was not thinking that. The more I've read about it and seen kind of how the Dolphins have been performing and all that stuff, I've changed my mind. I believe in this team. Even though I was quaking a little bit during the game last week, I won't lie to you there. I see the Jets winning 30-24. I think they're going to score. I think we're going to score. And it's going to come down to us just being a little bit better. The complete performance from all three faces of the football team. So let's crush that same old Jets narrative. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. So lastly, Some bets I have going into Sunday here, my worthy wagers, as it were, or whatever alliteration I could think of as far as the, these bets. I'm taking the Jets to cover again. FanDuel, which is what I use since I use FanDuel primarily. I have DraftKings as well, but they have the line at 3 points. I feel pretty good about us covering that, as well as, like I said, I would take the money line here. So that's one. The Buccaneers minus the points. I literally did that last week. And I know I lost that one. I learned my lesson, but that was a primetime game, and you know what they say, it was a revenge game against the Chiefs. I dismissed all of that and just thought Tom Brady was going to bring it together. All that being said, I just this matchup to me is just it's too I won't say it's too easy because it's not. It's just it lines up really well for the Bucks. The Falcons are out Cordero Patterson and Kyle Pitts. To me, that's the death knell for them. I just can't see them scoring enough points to beat the Buccaneers. Also, the Buccaneers got embarrassed on their defensive side of the football, and that team's defense is incredible. They're gonna come out hot. They're gonna come out ready to smack some players around. I just don't think Drake London by himself, and maybe Tyler Algier, he's pretty solid. I don't think those two players are enough for the Falcons to beat the Buccaneers or even keep it super close. I believe the line was at 9 when I took this line. That said, lastly, actually, I got a couple. Bengals through plus 3.5. Bengals ate them up last year. Joe Burr, Joe Burr is getting healthier, and their offensive line is getting better week to week. And again, this is against the Ravens. Sorry, I didn't say that originally. Rashad Bateman's out. That's their best wide receiver. I'm not super impressed by the rest of them. Duvernay is solid, so I mean I'll give him that. I mean he scored 2 touchdowns against the Jets when we played him week 1, so I respect them. I respect him, but I really think they still need Bateman there. I don't think Duvernay is good enough for number 1 wide receiver covering him. I just don't. And Awuzie is that guy. You saw how he ate up Elijah Moore. Well, tried to eat up Elijah Moore when we went against them. So I have the utmost respect for him. Um, Mark Andrews will still do well. I'm not saying the Bengals are going to blow them out, even though those games were really high scoring last year. I just think it's going to be different. I don't care if the Ravens are at home. I don't know. I don't feel good about the Ravens right now on offense. Or defense. Well, correction. Defense, I don't feel good about them. Offense, I still trust, Lamar. I just don't think he has enough around him to win. And also to go back for as far as the Bengals, like I mentioned, their offensive line is starting to look better every single week. That's a problem. They're going to keep performing like that. For the Ravens, that is. And the Ravens still don't have a really good pass rush. There's just a lot to kind of encounter there. But division game, so anything can happen. We'll see. Lastly, I'm taking the Steelers to cover those 14 points. 14 points is a lot of points, guys. I know the Bills are awesome and they're one of the best teams in the NFL. They are. They're still really banged up. They lost their safety for the year. I don't remember which one it is right now off the top of my head. I think is it Micah Hyde? I think. He's out for the year. Their offensive line is still kind of banged up. Josh Allen can do but so much. Okay, he's a baller though, but he can only do but so much. Um, and I think Pickett, even though, we got the best of him last week, uh I still think that Pickett gives them some juice. He's better than Trubisky. And now he's gonna have a full week of practice getting the first team snaps. He needs those. Also, they don't have a lot of tape. The Bills don't have a lot of tape as far as, to use against Pickett and know his tendencies and all that stuff. All they got is a half of quarterback. So I wouldn't say the Bills are going to lose that game, but I'm very confident the Steelers will cover. Also, Mike Tomlin does really good when he's the underdog in games. I don't know what it is. It's just he performs. It's just when he's a favorite, things can go haywire. So, all that being said, that's what I got as far as these wagers go. looking forward to this Sunday's slate of games. I'm gonna definitely do some prop bets and all that stuff. And if I do well enough, then I'll talk about my props next week too, so you guys can get a little something from that. But like I said in the previous video, I'm very precautious in those. So I don't go for $1,000 bets or anything like that because I don't I'm too nervous I'm gonna lose. So we'll see. All that being said, thanks again, guys, for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell a friend, all that good stuff. I appreciate you watching every week. And I will make a Knicks video soon as well, just to go over the game that just happened last night. Just got a busy Saturday. So I'll make it happen though later. You guys have a great day. Let's go, Jets.